Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellbite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk a little bit more about Seraphine. Yes, I know you guys are sick to death of hearing about this character, but I have a few more things I wanted to chat about real quick. There will be the video today, and then the full review of Seraphine on Monday. I did want to give myself the weekend to really grind some games out on this character and make sure I knew exactly where she stands before I decided to talk about kind of where I think she's at. But I did want to go ahead and make this video right now because I do feel like I played the game enough at this point. I feel like I've played Seraphine enough at this point to say conclusively whether or not Seraphine is Sona 2.0. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying, even ever since her kit reveal, like, oh, Seraphine is the new Sona. She's better than Sona in every single way. She steals Sona's shtick. And I've talked a little bit about why that's not the case before, especially in terms of theming. I think it's fair to say that, yeah, we have two Pyromancer characters, but that doesn't mean that Brand is just Annie 2.0 or vice versa. That sort of a thing. I feel like Seraphine and Sona already, it's hard to draw that exact comparison. But either way, did want to talk about exactly where I feel Sona stacks up compared to Seraphine and vice versa, and why they both still have sort of their own reason to exist and sort of their own individual playstyles and reasons to be picked. Now, obviously their kits have a lot of similar aspects. I think that's not in question at all. They both have a boosted auto attack ability. They both have AoE heals and or shields. They both have some form of dealing damage, and their ultimates are both AoE crowd control spells. But it's in the details, especially, where these characters end up differentiating themselves enough that they don't really work in each other's preferred roles. Now, first and foremost, yes, Seraphine does have the passive that gives her the bonus auto attack after casting a spell, but the biggest thing with her is that that ability is very much so scaling based off of her nearby allies. Seraphine's boosted auto attack after casting a spell really doesn't do that much with her notes unless she's able to get some allies nearby in order to boost that up, which does mean that she's relatively limited in lane because it doesn't actually do that much. You still basically want to be using it like a Sheen proc, casting a spell into an auto attack in order to get your damage through and maximize how much you can do, but it's really not necessary almost for her to be trying to use it like that because it doesn't do that much compared with someone like, let's say, Sona, where she really does benefit from just being able to press Q and using the auto attack and getting all of that damage down immediately. That's not tied to her allies at all. She just gets that as an ability. The other thing people conveniently forget is that Sona's passive also has some degree of utility to her. So she has the ability to, if she's in her or either her Araya of Perseverance or her Song of Celerity, to gain a different effect based on what she actually wants, either reducing the damage of the auto-attacked target, or instead simply getting the slow on the auto-attack to help her set up for ganks. Sona doesn't have to use that for poke, though of course she can, and that's, I think, the biggest thing people always remember about Sona is when she does the power chord into these Hymn of Valor and just sort of instantly kills you, right? Like, that's the biggest thing that everyone remembers that Sona is able to do. But I think that's an unfair way of sort of talking about Sona, because I do feel like she has a lot of other value besides that. In fact, for a while, Sona's viability in pro play was tied almost entirely to her ability to just diminuendo the enemy AD carry whenever they went for a trade. She has the ability to set up a gank with that slowing power chord even before she hits level 6, which gives her a decent degree of utility there. So there's a lot more utility that Sona can offer from that beyond just, I cast a spell so I get bonus damage on my next attack. The other biggest thing that people compare to is, of course, Seraphine's surround sound with Sona's Araya of Perseverance and Song of Celerity. The biggest thing here being that, well, Seraphine just has Sona W and E on one button. How can that possibly be balanced? How can that possibly not say that Seraphine is just Sona 2.0? But I do think that that's an unfair comparison to make because Seraphine gets all the effects at once, but it also means that she might waste value on those parts of the ability. So if you're already full health, for example, the heal isn't going to make a difference, but if you need that movement speed in order to get out of a bad situation, well, you're going to cast the ability anyways, and because of how much value it has, it's also a significantly longer cooldown. So Seraphine may not want the movement speed, she may not want the shield, but either way, when she presses the button, she's going to get both of them, and so she's going to be deducted the mana for and the cooldown for everything that that ability can provide. And so in general, she doesn't have a choice. That is sort of something she just has to do. Sona, on the other hand, has more granular control of her utility. She can just kind of press W off cooldown constantly to heal herself and one nearby ally. And that's all she wants, maybe. She's not spending the mana, she's not spending the cooldown for the bonus movement speed, she's just saying, all I want right now is the heal and the shield. Also, she has more ready access to the heal. She presses W, she heals somebody. That's it. That's the end of the story. Seraphine, meanwhile, has to decide between using her limited double cast, which she has to stack back up to by casting other spells, which then maybe she accidentally says, I need an E right now to bail myself out, so that costs me the W double cast that I need otherwise, or she needs a friend nearby to shield her, which can happen but doesn't always happen. It's a lot more limiting for Seraphine in order to try and get that W to heal somebody, whereas, again, Sona doesn't have to think about it. She just presses a button and receives the heal. So there are fewer hoops for Sona to jump through. In that regard, Sona is a better healer overall, because even though she can't heal her entire team, she can still grant all of them the shield, and she still can at least heal herself and one nearby ally at will, as opposed to Seraphine, who doesn't always have that option. And Seraphine's heal doesn't scale very well either, and AP Sona really gets to heal quite well, so that is a big advantage for her at the end of the day. Finally, talking about their ultimates here, obviously, yes, Seraphine and Sona both have a crowd control ability ultimate. Seraphine's is potentially better in terms of the raw CC value, because the charm is more likely to pull enemies out of position than a simple stun will do. However, I still think Sona has the option of just going for plays like Flash Crescendo, which Seraphine can't because of how long Encore's wind-up time is and how slow the projectile actually moves. Compare that to something like a Sona Crescendo, which is near instantaneous. It's almost impossible to see that coming. There's almost no cast time. Essentially, Sona presses R and you're dancing now, which allows Sona to go for things like a flank play or like a flash play, or even just using the boosted movement speed on Song of Celerity to get her in position to go for a crescendo. Sona can make those plays, and even she can sort of Song of Celerity at you and say, you're flashing in respect, and I don't have to pull the trigger on my R then, or you're taking the R, because it's going to be impossible for you to dodge once I press the button. Seraphine, on the other hand, I don't feel like has that possibility because of how long it takes Encore to come out. It does have the boosted range, so Seraphine will rarely have to make the Flash Encore play, but that means that enemy champions have a lot more time to see it coming. It serves better as a sort of follow-up crowd control ability, so in a similar vein to Yasuo following up on a Malphite initiation with his own CC. Seraphine will do something similar, where the Ornn uses Call the Forge God to start the fight, and Seraphine follows up on the Ornn's initiation with her own crowd control ultimate. That's where Seraphine is going to be getting value, whereas Sona is very much able to make the initiation happen on her own. She can obviously follow up on other champions' initiations by either flashing or Eing herself in a position for an unavoidable crescendo, but Seraphine really needs someone else to set her up so she can sort of chain the CC instead. So she does have a bit of limited value there versus what Sona can do. And now, this isn't to say that Seraphine doesn't have value on her own. Seraphine, I feel like her damage potential is significantly safer and significantly higher than Sona. Seraphine has the ability to sort of chain CC entire teams with a basic ability, thanks to how her E works, especially if the enemies are already slowed or otherwise crowd controlled. So Seraphine has a lot of options with how else she wants to end up playing with her kit. There are still reasons to pick her, don't misunderstand, but I don't think that her kit as it stands trespasses altogether too much on exactly how Sona's kit works, for example. The other thing that I would say about Seraphine in particular is that Sona does a better job in the support category. Having seen how Seraphine plays at support, it really does feel a lot more like Seraphine is like a Lux support. In that, yeah, she provides a limited amount of value to her AD carry. She has a few things that she's sort of able to do in the support position that help regardless of how far ahead she is. But generally, she's like Lux, and she's just kind of there to poke you out and provide a modicum of value in the meantime. Whereas Sona is very much so a champion that thrives on low income, who always brings value to the team, and who still scales quite well into the later stages of the game. Conversely, if we flip the roles, Sona in the mid lane just gets shoved in. There is nothing that champion can do to shove out. Her only damaging ability hits 2 targets, and everything else is auto-attacking. So even if those Hymn of Valor bolts are strong enough to kill 2 melee minions right off the bat, she still is waiting on the cooldown to auto-attack the rest of the minions down, and at that point she's wasting a lot of mana, constantly casting her Q. She doesn't have the ability to play the sort of supportive mid lane game like Seraphine, or even a champion like Orianna or Karma can do. They all have wave clear, Sona does not. So if you want a supportive mid laner who brings similar value to what Sona can bring, or to what Seraphine can bring, like you're just not gonna do that, right? You're gonna play somebody like Seraphine instead of trying to bring out Sona into the mid lane, and which I do think fits their personalities pretty well. Seraphine is the pop star. She is the center of the spotlight. She's the one who wants all eyes on her, while Sona is content as just being a background, as being a part of the ensemble, of supporting everybody and maybe stepping out every so often for her big moment, but generally is happy just kind of doing her own thing. So in general, I feel like the comparisons between Seraphine and Sona are misjudged. Again, I feel like a lot of this is sort of like, well, we have a music mage already, so we can't do another one, right? But that's just strictly untrue, and I would even love it if Riot came back and started doing other characters for other thematics we already have, especially if we had other air mages, for example, or other water mages, for example. There's a lot of untapped potential that Riot can do with these themes that I feel like, sure, one champion, you can say, if you only have room for one champion on the roster, right? If you say League of Legends can only have 150 champions, then yeah, okay, you're only going to have one air mage, one water mage, one fire mage, etc. But because that's not really the case of how League is gone, because that's not really how League is sort of developed, we haven't gotten into a spot where League's like, oh, we're never going to make any more champions. It very much so is, yeah, we're going to keep releasing champions for as long as the game is going to be live. So they're going to be able to double up, and they're going to be able to do different and interesting things with their picks at that point and with their champion designs, and saying, hey, let's take another look at how we can do music mage, fire mage, that sort of a thing. So, but those are just my thoughts on how Seraphine and Sona do stack up. Like I said before, I will have my full Seraphine review out on Monday for you guys to take a look at what I think of this champion overall. So make sure you guys subscribe in order to get notified when that video does go live. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed it, like I said, consider subscribing. It really does help me out and lets me know that you're enjoying the content. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.